What happened in qualifying for the Qatar Grand Prix? Now, before we dive into what happened in Q1, Q2, Q3, we have new merch, which is very exciting, isn't it, Tommy? We've got new designs. Oh, yeah. I am actually wearing new P1 merch right now, probably thinking about racing, which it says several times on my chest. We've also got other designs as well. Just go and check them out. Some things have them on the back as well, so it might just look like a plain or just the logo on the front. If you click onto it, you'll be able to see what's on the back as well. It's very exciting, isn't it, Tommy?
Hell yeah.
Lovely. Right, let's start with Q1 then. And it was Sargent, Stroll, Lawson, Magnussen and Zhou out. But the big, massive, enormous talking point that we're going to begin with is Lance Stroll. But not because he's out in Q1. It's that he decided to allegedly yeet his personal trainer in the garage, which, I don't think there's really any other conclusion you can come from what we saw on the footage. We didn't see the guy getting pushed, but I don't think he was pushing thin air. No,
it was kind of, the camera angle didn't quite catch it, but you could kind of see what was going on. Yes, didn't look good for him to lose it like that with, a member of his own team is shocking, like really, really shocking. It's such a bad situation now.
Lance went far too aggressive with it. It's really sad to see, to be honest with you. And also it wasn't like he'd even cooled down when he had the post-quali interview as well, because he swore at the beginning and then he gave one-word answers. And one-word answers for Lance Stroll is, a few usually, but he literally was very much cutthroat, keep driving, goodbye sort of thing. Question from our P1 Patreon Discord, and this comes in from Blue Stucky 79. Do we think Lance's head has finally gone? It's not exactly been a great year for him, but it looks like something finally snapped in him tonight and he doesn't look like he even wants the seat anymore. I think that there is definitely, this has been the biggest indication for us that Lance is not happy. I think you can take the heat, the humidity, the pressure, everything that went on in that particular Q1 session and jump to conclusions. I'm sure once Lance has cooled down, he won't be like that when we next see him tomorrow. But he wasn't able to remain professional. And I wonder if Aston Martin will even say anything about this as well.
You'd think once it's cooled down, whether he means it or not, there'll be some kind of tweet that's like, Lance apologizes for his actions.
This is the thing. He'd have to actually say something, wouldn't he, on video? Whereas, like, I regret my actions of what he did, because I think just putting a tweet or a bit of text out, everyone's just going to be like, well, whatever.
This could be anything. Yeah, but it would be quite embarrassing if they cover it, like, don't say anything, because then it's even more kind of like the team is scared because it's the boss's son kind of situation. So
we shall see, eh? Now let's move on, shall we? To Q2, where we speak about Tsunoda, Sainz, Perez, Albon and Hülkenberg. And as you may well have guessed, there's two big old scalps there from the Ferrari and Red Bull teams. There's something fundamentally wrong, isn't there, Tommy? We've said this so many times now, but the more it happens, the more we start to eke into next year now, and you start to question, where do Red Bull sit on this? Is it as simple as, right, Sergio, if you secure P2 in the Drivers' Championship, no problem. We'll see you next year, we'll reset. Or is there more to this? Because Red Bull have this luxury now, but they won't forever. And obviously they have to future-proof themselves as much as live in the moment of, it's fine. Max can win the Constructors and the Drivers on his own. That's not going to happen forever. This kind of domination, as we know with Formula One, it chops and changes.
It does seem like, maybe Red Bull need to think about someone that's got a not too dissimilar driving style to Verstappen, because we've seen what Perez can do when the car is, more suited towards him. I don't think if you put a car that's suited towards him, he beats Max, but he's certainly a lot closer to him and picking up second places, which is exactly what you do. But you can't blame Red Bull, really, with how dominant Max is becoming and the legacy that he's kind of, building, for them to kind of do that because it looks amazing for Red Bull to, go on this like insane winning streak with Max. But it's clearly a car that Perez just is not happy with, and it doesn't suit his driving style at all. Of course, you can argue adaptability is something that is a great thing in Formula One, and that's what makes the great drivers great. But you do wonder if we keep seeing Perez getting knocked out and having these scrappy races that maybe, because he doesn't need to be beating Max. You could argue doesn't even need to be finishing second, like podiums, fourths, fifths. But at the moment, not even making it into Q3s, and then goodness me, like that last race, like just when you thought surely it can't get any worse, and then he's not picking himself up, is he, from these moments? So you just wonder when it's going to change.
Moving on now to Carlos Sainz. He also was out in Q2, had his lap time deleted. It was such tricky conditions out there. We saw that through practice, and we also saw that throughout qualifying, which made it difficult for all the drivers, Carlos Sainz being one of them as well. I genuinely think the race is going to be such a mystery with only having one practice session, all of this sand that's around, and we don't know necessarily whether it's going to be the same problem for tomorrow and for Sunday, but having those variables, it's not rain, it's what's on the track, and it being green as it's known, but with sand rather than just general dust.
A lot of drivers are getting caught out by this, and the Ferrari, I mean, Charles managed to make it through, but he was having quite the adventure, shall we say, for a lot of the day, really, including practice and quali. The car did not look hooked up.
What I will say is obviously that Ferrari did question it at the time. They ran the two cars in the gap in Q2 with about 6 minutes to go, which meant they were on the fresh soft tyres earlier than everyone else. When the track obviously continues to ramp up as we get later and later into the session, both of them messed up their lap that time. Carlos, I think, went wide, and Charles had the same issue around the same corner that he did about 12 times over the course of this weekend. I think turn 5, I can't remember the number of it, but yeah, and so you wonder why would Ferrari put pressure on the drivers like that as well, because then it meant they had to go for another lap on sort of slightly worn softs, but also, yeah, just not a good qualifying for Ferrari and especially Carlos Sainz. Right, let's move to Q3 now, where we fought for pole, or did we? Not really. Max Verstappen, unbelievable as always. His dominance just continues this season, and it wasn't plain sailing for old Max, as you mentioned, Tommy. He made that mistake in the final part of qualifying, which did just open the door ajar, didn't it? It gave us a little bit of hope, and I think Lando could have, in my opinion, taken pole position tonight, because he was 10th and a half off, I think. Wasn't the cleanest of laps, I think, up until the point in which he then obviously exceeded track limits. But I think it was there. It was up for grabs. I think it would have taken a worldie, but Max wasn't completely and utterly perfect.
It's insane, really, because his teammates not even made it into Q3. Sorry.
I know it's 10 to 8.
I know
Tommy should be in bed.
I don't know what is going on with me with the sessions at the moment. Q1, Q2, Q3. It's been like that for many years. For whatever reason, today I've just woken up and forgotten how it works. It's only been a week off, but Max putting 4/10 on the field is quite insane, really. Just standard, isn't it, this year?
Certainly is. Let's speak about the McLarens then, as that wouldn't have been a 4/10 gap had it been for Lando actually keeping it within the white lines. But unfortunately for Lando, P10 for Sunday's race. And then Oscar Piastri finding out during his post-quali top 3 interview that he had his lap time deleted. And that was so... I mean, of all of the drivers as well, Oscar, the poor innocent soul, finding out that he's not in the top 3 anymore after Naomi going, well, why are you here? Fully expecting Lando to be there, when in fact it should have been Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, it's tough for McLaren, because this is obviously the qualifying for the race where you scored the big points. And you've got to say that They should be taking 2 and 3 easy here with a 4/10 gap to P2.
Question from WV Phil. Was the pit lane stall by Russell fair? Well, Max Verstappen did it and got a reprimand. I didn't see anything about any investigations going on about George just stopping in the middle of the pit lane. Didn't see anything.
No,
actually.
didn't see anything. They were too busy with track limits.
They probably. I can imagine it was the SpongeBob on fire meme of everyone running around with pieces of paper with the track limits, because it was, I don't know, like maybe a 5, perhaps even 6-7 minute delay between a driver setting a lap that was almost definitely invalid to it actually getting knocked out.
The pit lane thing's a weird one because the Russell incident, because I don't know, it's happened twice now. It's not something we've seen really before, and if they're consistent, he'll just get a reprimand. So we'll see.
It was very strange, and there was Hamilton behind him, so I'm sure there was a Twitter uproar around that as well. But
probably.
Yeah, I don't think it was massively changing.
It didn't do anything, did
it? Had a terrible lap that next lap, so I wonder if it was George Russell slowing down in the pit lane, which caused Hamilton to scrub his final run.
Yeah,
exactly. But no, I mean, it literally looked the same as Max Verstappen, so therefore it should be a reprimand. That's how I see it.
Yeah, same.
Maybe they see it as different. We shall see. Final question from our Patreon member, R Sport. Can the McLarens and Ferraris get back into the podium despite the surprises in quali? I think that's going to be a Mercedes lockout now for P2 and P3. That's how I see it after a very impressive qualifying performance. I think they could probably get to around 4th. Oscar's only 6th, so it really does depend on the race pace, because FP1 was so irrelevant because of the fact of the time of day and also the state of the track, that I don't think teams probably got much data anyway on long run pace. I'm sure we can all put our money on Red Bull being fastest, but after that, it's a bit of a mystery.
Yeah, it depends how quickly Toto comes on the radio and tells Russell and Hamilton to stop fighting when they're pushing each other off the track and going side by side to every turn and kind of fighting each other. That is going to be quite fascinating to see, because you've got to say that Hamilton has had the race pace this year, so you think would be a bit quicker in the race. Russell's not been afraid to sort of battle as much as he can in those situations, so that could be a spicy thing to look forward to. So it's going to be a tough ask, because we know that Mercedes are a lot quicker in race trim than they appear to be in qualifying, and they've qualified really well, so they will be tough to beat.
They certainly will. Before we go, it's probably worth mentioning both Alpines making it through to Q3. Big shout out to Gasly and Ocon, starting 7th and 8th for Sunday's race. And Valtteri Bottas in the Alfa Romeo. Zhou Guanyu starting 20th and Bottas up in 9th, putting 1.4 seconds on Zhou Guanyu's time in Q1. I'm sure there were some track limits / traffic or sand or whatever that affected that. But still, Bottas, what a quali performance. And he definitely needs a small segment to say well done right now.
Sure does. Yeah, that's a great performance to be P9. You've got to think that it's going to be a miracle if he gets a point with the cars ahead of him, and also having quick cars like Sainz and Perez behind him. But Bottas showing that he can have those brilliant qualifying performances like we've seen from him. And that is a very good one indeed. So fair play, Bottas.
Fair play, Bottas. And that is it. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening, as always, to this P1 podcast. We will be live on Twitch twice tomorrow. We'll be live for the sprint shootout. Woohoo. Another short quali for the start of Saturday. And then we'll have the sprint later on as well. So we'll be live. Matt P1 Tommy on Twitch. Go follow if you haven't already. And of course, you'll have all the glorious content you've come to know and love right in your ears or right in your eyes, as always. Tommy, what are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts are tomorrow, merchandise, as Matt's presenting, of course, but also tomorrow I will be disappointed after Carlos's brilliant suggestion of reverse grids, even though Carlos himself and Sergio Perez have already tried their best to put that in place.
They're like, hey, look, it's going to be fun. Yeah, so it should be interesting. Right, we'll see you tomorrow for a complete reset where we do the sprint stuff, and we'll look forward to seeing you there. Bye!
Bye.